So, how's it going? What are you working on lately?
Yeah, like same old YouTube videos, streaming, game dev. Like that's basically been the whole cycle. Like
Yeah,
make progress on the game, make a video on it, stream it. That's and then rinse and repeat.
yeah. How do you what's your daily routine like when you do various things like that?
Well, it depends on the day because on my streaming days, it's just consists of me either editing or game dev before the stream, and then yeah, obviously during the stream I try to get primarily game dev done. Sometimes I also game. That's research.
Yep. It is. Like we can't forget to actually play games or we'll get
Yeah,
real.
yeah, it helps. It helps a lot. Just to get the ideas flowing and stuff. On the weekends, I try to have one day that I'm not, doing any technology. So
Hmm.
I'll either go for a walk, like a long walk in the forest, or the yeah. I try to get one day. Some weeks where I'm really busy, it's like not possible. But yeah, that's pretty much editing, game dev, or
That's cool. I'm so curious to hear about your nature walks. I watched one of your videos where you like go to a mountain with your dog
yeah.
and it just looked so nice. Can you tell me more about what you do on these days?
Yeah. Because I live in Poland right now. I go back and forth from Miami to Poland. But yeah, primarily right now living in Poland, and I love the mountains. Like, that's just my happy place. I was actually born in Colombia, and like, where it's very mountainous and everything. So it's like, I feel like that's my happy place. So it's really nice where I live here because I can go to the mountains in like an hour and I'm there. So yeah, there's that, and also I love going to the forests. There's a lot of forests here. I think you also in Canada, right? There's a lot of more nature stuff.
There is. I could definitely be doing like going to these places more like you do. How do you like okay, if I go to the forest or something, I'm just kind of like I go for like a little walk, go for a little hike, then I'm like, all right, I'm done. What do you do when you spend the day out there?
Yeah, so like on that particular day in that video, I did like I went like off the main track because I was with my dog and like I just let her free run. So we went I was like, "Oh, this is a nice track that I found." And then I see a lot of like deer poop and all this and I'm like, "Okay, this is an animal
Oh wow.
so yeah, I we hiked the mountain, we got to the top, we started a fire, and then we roasted some sausages and then went back down. And yeah, that's just the whole day. The whole I was there from like 2 and then I got back to the bottom at like 8 p.m.
Oh wow.
And so then you take the train back, or if I'm with a friend we just drive back, and it was like a 1.5 hour ride back to where I live. So
That's really
yeah.
adventurous. Is it safe if there's these animals where you're walking around?
I saw there. I think there's just deer. I
No
don't think there's
bears?
any bears. No, I don't think there's bears. But maybe in some of the trails there might be. I don't know. I
Okay.
have a dog.
Little you care that you may come across a bear. I guess it's I want to think it's a low likelihood, but I feel like if you're going out and going on these adventures, like those are the people who come across them. I just
What was that movie that just came out? That cocaine bear.
Oh my God. What if you come across a cocaine bear? What are you gonna do, Jackie?
I would just say, Ollie, my dog, just get on it.
Oh, how big is your dog?
How big? She's
Yeah.
like 20 kilos. Um, she's pretty big, honestly. Like most people, like when they see her, like they're kind of afraid.
You're gonna put her up
Um,
against a bear though? A cocaine bear?
maybe if she's barking and
Yeah.
hopefully the noise will. Maybe not, but
They do
wishful
say like
thinking.
bears don't really want to go where if you're like making a lot of noise and appearing to be like big and stuff, then they don't want to come near you most of
I
the
think
time.
so. I think they say to like stand still, because bears, they're not really carnivores. They eat, aren't they vegetarians?
I think omnivores,
Are they? Oh my
but
god.
maybe you're right. You might be right.
I have no idea. I just, honey, and don't they just eat
They just
honey?
eat honey all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's cool. Well, that's so nice. You can just build a fire and have something to eat.
Actually, I'm like really happy because I went to university here and I had this, oh my God, this most insane class ever. We had to do one sport and it was called Turistika Gurska, like touristic mountain. And I had the craziest professor ever. Like we went to 3 mountain trips. And the first mountain, actually the second mountain trip, we literally walked like 20 kilometers. We slept there that night. And then after that whole like long journey, like I was dying. The next day we hiked a mountain. And I remember getting to the top. Not everybody even reached the top. We were all scattered. The professor just like, okay, we reached the top. Bye, I'm leaving. And later that trip, I found that one girl didn't even make it. Like I don't know what happened to her to this day.
What? Like she didn't live? She didn't make it. We lost the
No,
soldier
because that
that
was the
day.
second trip. The third trip, she wasn't there, and I was like,
Oh my god, that's terrifying.
so actually from that class, like I feel like I know how to get around the mountains. It was good, but I was really from that second trip. I didn't think I would make it.
Oh my god. Wow, so you've been like I don't know, like trailblazing or like hiking boot camp with this teacher, it seems like.
He was crazy. Of course, he drove a motorcycle, had a leather jacket. And
What a
that was the
character.
professor.
What did he teach? What was the subject?
I guess PE, like physical education. I have no idea. I just had him for that one class.
That's so funny.
And plus, it was like snowing and everything.
What? Did this in the
Yeah.
winter?
Yes.
Holy.
Yeah.
Wow.
I
So
remember
go
this
ahead.
one kid was just in a leather jacket. I was like, oh my God, he's not going to make it.
Not gonna make it. Too not warm enough. Oh my god.
So yeah, that definitely makes me feel calmer after doing that. I can do anything.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it, I guess. So do you ever stay overnight then if you've done that before? Or you
Yeah,
stay
yeah.
for the
There's
day?
some shelters. They're nice and it's like not super expensive, so and the mountains there, so it's good.
That's cool. And you go both summer and winter?
Yeah, yeah. Mostly in the summer, but yeah, I try to go also as much as I can in the winter. I'm from Miami, so it's like I'm still getting used to the winters here. Um, but yeah, like once you have the right clothes, it's not so hard.
I guess so. I guess if you're as adventurous as that, then who cares about the cold weather? But you're
Yeah.
you're from Miami, so like how are you back and forth and what like you grew up in Miami, I take it?
Yeah, I was from Colombia, like South America. My dad is Colombian, my mom's American. So when I was born, we moved to Miami, but I would go to Colombia every summer. And I guess that's like what enabled me to like not fear traveling as much because I was always, back and forth. And we all know that the American education system is expensive.
Mhm.
And I went to Orlando to study. I was going to study aerospace engineering,
Cool.
but a year in, I loved it, but I decided to switch to computer science. And that same year, like after my first year, I went to Poland to teach English. I was actually going to Germany to study, like for summer. And my friend was like, "Oh, do you want to come to Poland and teach English?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure. I'm going to be in Germany. I could just go there and then go to Germany." So I ended up coming here and I really fell in love with it. Like the location, it's like close to Czech Republic, to Germany, to France. It's like kind of central. Um I love this little city that I'm in, and yeah, I looked at the universities. There was a very good computer science program. Poland is actually really good with computer science. Like most people in the city, you ask them what they do, and they're all doing computer science, like something.
I didn't
Yeah.
know that.
And yeah. So I was like amazed because in Miami, I didn't know anybody who did computer science. Everybody was doing medicine in Miami. So it was
Okay.
really nice. So then I studied here. I've graduated, I don't even know, like 3 years ago, 2 years, yeah, three-ish maybe. And I just ended up staying because it's just like Europe is a completely different world from America. Like
Yeah.
every time I go back to America, I'm just like, whoa. It's like it's just a different way of life, different everything, you know.
So how long have you been in Poland now then?
It's in a couple of months. It'll be 7 years I've been here.
Years. How was
Yeah.
it like, God, how was it starting, university in another language?
Well, I studied in English, so
English. Okay.
but still, like the way they teach, and it's like it was pretty different. So there was like that adjustment period that was pretty, difficult, I guess.
Okay. And then how was learning Polish?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's like a Slavic language. When I first came here, I'm like, oh, isn't it a Germanic? But no, it's Slavic. There's
Mhm.
like seven. Like you need like the gender of things, and there's like, for instance, if you're talking about the noun table, it changes 7 times. The word table, depending on the action and so yeah, I don't use that much grammar, but I'm
Wow.
able to communicate. Like I'm on a communicational level.
That's I guess what you need to get by,
Yeah.
especially if you're doing stuff like you where all your things are online, they're in English anyway, so
Yeah, so I definitely want to get my Polish level more, but for now I'm fine with it.
yeah, that's cool. So, okay, so you studied computer science.
Mhm.
How did you eventually get into game development?
So yeah, when I graduated, I started learning web development because I was thinking job mode, like what can I do as work?
Mhm.
And I did React, React Native, all the web dev stuff, and like Node.js backend stuff. I was really into that, and I was doing some freelancing stuff. And while after I got more into it, I guess I was like a year into web development. I was like, hey, I've always wanted to do game development. Like always throughout university, I was always like, I need to try Unity. I need to try Unity. And it wasn't until like a year into it, I did Unity, and I documented it on YouTube. Like I was making Mario. That's the first thing, and I wanted to do a devlog series, so I made Mario and I did devlogs, and it wasn't until like, so when I first started doing this YouTube, I later on, like 5 months later, I picked up streaming. I didn't even know people streamed game development at that time. I think it was like 2021. I was watching Adam C. Youngest, and he was like, "Oh, I stream on Twitch." I'm like, "What? People stream game development and like software? How? What?" I just thought of Twitch as like streaming gameplay, so I was amazed. I didn't even know that that was a thing. So yeah, I started streaming, making YouTube videos, and yeah, that's kind of how I got into game development. And then I guess when like I was able to, like, I was picking up momentum, and then I was like, okay, I want to go all in on this, and then I stopped doing the freelancing for web development, and I just kept on the streaming, and I am where I am today.
Cool. So the
doing the same thing.
so the game development and the streaming and YouTube, that's full time. That's 100% of
Yeah,
your
that's
time these
full
days.
time. And I do also some lessons. So like I teach Godot also.
Oh, cool.
So some private lessons. Yeah, because while I was in university here studying, I was teaching English
Hmm.
at this language school. And I actually convinced the owner of the language school to allow me to teach programming. So
Cool.
I was teaching English sometimes, and then I was teaching programming. And I really enjoyed teaching it. It was really cool because like some of the kids, I was teaching kids programming Python,
Hmm.
and I actually taught them like how to make a game in Pygame Zero. And
Okay.
these,
I haven't heard of it, but
yeah, it's like a Python framework, I guess.
mhm.
And this was before I did the Mario and the Unity. It was just like a fun little project, but it was really cool because these kids were like 11 years old. They barely knew English, and I was teaching them programming in English.
Wow.
So it was a really nice experience. I love like teaching kids and everything. It's like really and adults.
Yeah.
It's something that's nice. I like teaching as well. That's why on YouTube I do silly devlogs, but I also like making tutorials and stuff.
That's yeah, teaching is really rewarding. I've taught some stuff in the past as well, and it's like it's so nice to see when you can actually watch people grow in whatever it is that you're teaching them, and you feel like
Yeah,
there's some real progress happening.
yeah. Those students that are really passionate about it are just the best because they fire you up and
Mm.
like, of course, like nowadays, like the kids they they know more about computers than us. Like I can't tell you how many times like a kid did something, I'm like what, or like I was teaching them this concept in Python, or like and then they did something extra with it, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't even think of that. So in many ways, like it also helps when you're teaching them because they see it differently, and then they also know additional things. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. And so you do devlogs, you do uh, tutorials. Do you have like a preference what you do, or you just kind of like doing the different things both?
Yeah, it's just I guess like my primary focus are these devlogs, but yeah, right now I'm working also on like a tutorial. I was holding back on Godot because I was waiting for 4.0 to come out, and now that it's out, I'm gonna be working more on tutorials. So that's good.
How do you like Godot?
Yeah, I love it. It's just really different. I can't speak in terms of 3D because I have really only done 2D stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, for me it was just a lot more fluent and fluid for me to develop in it. I just clicked more with it. I also like looking back, I actually was using like a not an updated version of Unity when I was programming it. So that could have also been why I had like a lot of issues with Unity. But yeah, it's I was using Unity and I was developing my game Hypatia, which I've now taken a break on. And I was just like, oh, let me just try out Godot. I've been hearing so much about it. And I was originally just going to make one little game in Godot. But after making this one game in 3 days, I was like, I want to make another game. And then I made another game. I'm like, okay, I actually like this engine better.
Oh wow,
So
okay.
I really haven't turned back since then. It's just, it's been uh, really fun. I like the fact that I can contact the devs who are working on the engine. I could see the source code. If I have like an issue, like I know in the back of my mind, I could potentially fix the issue in the engine. I've never done it, and who knows if I ever will. But just having that freedom to look down to like how this component works and to look at the code and to be able to change it, I think it's so
Mm.
cool. Like working on something that's open source also just gives you that nice feeling. And yeah, just having contact with the devs, it's really nice. And yeah, I've like now that it's changed into 4.0, like I see how big it's getting, and like you see how like wow, I was so fine with the engine before, but now I see that these changes are so important. Like it's just cool. Like I'm very happy to be like into this engine as early as I am, and like I'm really excited just to see where it goes from here.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you found an engine that you really like. And those are some great elements of it, like the fact that it's open source, the fact that you can go in and change things and at least
Yeah.
look at them if you need to. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty neat feature
Yeah.
of it. I don't know what
And
it's
you
like.
see all the bugs, like you see like so like if something is actually a bug, you could see like in GitHub if they've identified it as a bug, if they're working on it, like you see all of that as well. And you could even see the person who's working on that bug fix. I think that's
Mm,
like really cool.
that is cool. And there's a lot of
Yeah.
resources for it as well to learn it.
Huh?
There's a lot of resources for learning Godot.
Um With 4.0, not as many because it just came out like last month,
Hmm.
or this month. Was it this month or last month? I'm not sure, but they're coming out. I think there's a lot. But yeah, with this new update, there there needs more. But yeah, I didn't have any problems when I have an issue.
Okay, that's cool. So you mentioned taking a break on your project.
Hmm.
Are you doing a different one, or you're doing something else, or just taking a break generally?
Yeah, so with the main project I was working on, it was like a Greek RPG adventure game, and I kind
Mhm.
of guess I miscalculated how long it would take me to make that game. I don't even, it's hard to project because like I haven't released even a game to Steam, so it's hard. But
Mhm.
I feel like it would take probably like 5 to 6 years if I wanted to
Wow.
actually finish that, like what I had envisioned. And
Mhm.
also like the elements that I wanted in the game, I'm not sure if they could come together. I feel like it might have been like two games in one, so I definitely need to like go back and see what I'm gonna do about it. But yeah, I wanted to make a game that wouldn't take over 2 years to make,
Yeah.
and that's the current game I'm working on now.
Okay.
It's called Logcraft. It's an open sandbox survival game.
Mhm.
We'll see more. I might add more things to it, but I'm trying not to have scope creep on me.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to add too many things. But yeah, it's kind of like Minecraft, Terraria, Stardew Valley, and yeah, like those things mixed together.
Is it top down or side view?
Yeah, it's
Top
top
down.
down. Hmm.
Top down. And what's the setting?
It's not 100% now. Like I have these biomes that I think are going to be in it, but I haven't really concretely placed them in. But for now, there's like, forest biome, desert, but who knows? Like it could change. I could do something. I could change the whole world and it could be like nothing like is here,
Yeah.
like an alien planet or something. So I'm not sure I need to think more about what the whole game will be like. But yeah, I'm just trying to implement the systems that I know for sure are going to be in it, like the building, the harvesting, and farming, things like that. That well, for sure. And then I'm going to have to go into the game design and think about what I want the setting to be. People normally do that first, but I don't.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like, especially if you're participating in game jams and that kind of thing as an indie, like, we have the opportunity to just experiment with things and kind of see how the game evolves as we add to it and make decisions like that. We don't always, especially if we're not getting funded through a publisher or something like that, we can just, you know,
Yeah,
take as long as we need and make the game that arises from these different experiments, which is kind of cool. So
yeah,
I'm kind of excited to hear like how it's going to turn out because it's kind of like a fun process to try it and see it works and throw away the things that don't and then add in the things that you like.
yeah.
What's the
I
art
think it's
style for it?
huh?
The art style?
Yeah, it's pixel art.
Pixel art.
I've only done pixel art games. I would like to explore different mediums, but yeah, for now, I've only done pixel art. But yeah, I really love survival games, so it's also nice because with Hypatia, I didn't play that many adventure story games,
Hmm.
but for this one, I feel like I'm really getting into it because I like collecting resources, building a house, and yeah, those are the games that I really love playing. Like Minecraft, Terraria,
Yeah, I'm the
those
same.
types.
Yeah, that's why I went into it
Yeah,
as well. I'm like, these ones I just get so into. They're so like
yeah.
absorbing, you just get into it and
And
you
it's
can get
easy to
into the
like just put
flow.
hours into them.
Exactly.
If you have a story driven game, it's like, whoa, they played 20 hours, yes.
Yeah.
But it's like with a survival game, it's like, oh, okay, I just started playing 20 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. You're like, I just get into like, I'm gonna make a house like this. And you're like, oh, I just day went by.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's fun. That's cool. Yeah. How far into it are you?
Yeah, I have like a whole checklist. I don't know we'll see how that goes. But I've done like the building, resource gathering, and the biome generation, the procedurally generated biomes. I feel like I could even change how it is because you know how things are. You build something, you feel like you polish it, and then 4 months later you hate it and you change it. So it's like, who knows if I'm done with the procedural generation, but for now it's like acceptable. I can
Mhm.
move on. And yeah, I don't want to get too much into like adding things to the biomes.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, now I'm working on like the tools, and then I'll work on the farming, and then adding passive mobs and then aggressive mobs, and then yeah, that's kind of like the to-do list further
That's
down.
great. It's like you're halfway through the main stuff. That's exciting.
And
You
maybe
got
25%. I have
okay.
no idea. It's hard to
I guess
estimate.
yeah, and even if you get a thing done, you might wanna come back and revisit it and
Yeah.
improve it or, yeah, add to it, so but, I mean, that's a good basics or basis down. You said building, um, crafting? No.
Crafting, yeah,
Yeah,
crafting as
crafting?
well. Yeah,
Building,
yeah,
crafting, and procedural world, that's a great start. It sounds like
yeah.
you're chunked on now. Cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's the name of it?
Logcraft. We'll see if it
Logcraft.
stays like that,
Uh-huh.
but for now it's Logcraft, yeah.
Cool, cool. So, have you been doing videos around this one?
Videos?
Yeah, like devlogs or anything?
Yeah, so I've done like I think 3 devlogs for this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So
How do you like doing
mm,
devlogs? They take a long time for you to do them?
yeah, I really need to time how long it takes me because I have no idea how long, but it does take a long time. The because this last devlog I used like a bunch of green screen footage, and it's a lot complicated. I rewrote scripts like 4 times, and I cut out so much. I refilmed green screen footage, and it's yeah, it could take a very long time, many hours.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, it definitely takes a long time, and you need to like think about what elements you want to include in the videos, like what updates, because you don't want to add every single little update, and you want it to also have like a story to go along with it. That's something I struggled with YouTube because like I started off with like all this crazy editing,
mhm.
but I've learned that like in a way when you're making videos, sometimes you don't need all that crazy editing. If you have like the hook could be the story that the user the person watching wants to sit and watch to see what happens. And I'm just trying to incorporate that more into my videos. So
Yeah. Yeah, it can definitely be time consuming, especially when you have so many other things on the go.
yeah.
But your
Yeah.
videos seem to be really well put together and your channel seems to be doing really well. So,
Thanks.
yeah, it's hard to
Yeah.
find that balance between like, you
It's
know,
really hard.
put out a good quality video. It takes time. If you take less time, is it going to have less quality? It's hard to figure that out, but I guess that's sort of what anyone making YouTube videos or just that type of
Yeah.
content has to kind of find the right balance for themselves.
Yeah, and plus, like, I can't really stream, like, making the video. So it's like when I'm streaming, I can't be editing. So it's also difficult to find that balance as well. I need to get all the editing done before stream, but I only stream 3 times a week. I'm not an everyday streamer. Like, I don't know how you do that.
It's tough. I've also
That's,
been doing YouTube for the past little while, and I've been doing
yeah.
like a docu-series that's kind of like you're describing. Like I try to do like B-roll and stuff
Yeah.
outside of game development, and just filming that alone takes time, and then editing it and recording like the synopsis of what I was doing, and it takes a long time. So it's hard to find time to do everything really. I guess when it comes to video editing, I think I need to find the right balance of like what is the important parts and how can I do them more efficiently. I want to do like this whole like short film almost, right? Or like a
Mhm.
series. But
Yeah.
I think that docu-series was kind of leading up to the Kickstarter that I did recently. And
Mhm.
now I think it's going to be like maybe one episode every so often, like a little bit less frequent. And then the other videos I think will be a little bit more like efficiently made so that I don't take away too much time from actually
Yeah.
recording my game streaming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you use to edit your videos?
I use Premiere.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the in a way, I wish I wasn't so hooked to the Adobe.
I
But it's like
know.
but it's like
Crap.
when I think about using a different video editor, I'm like, "No, I need Photoshop too."
No, it's my most expensive subscription of all my
I
different game dev software,
know.
and I use it the least. But like, but like, I still need to use Photoshop sometimes. I still need to
I
use Premiere
know.
sometimes,
No,
and I just
Photoshop
like,
is necessary, especially with the thumbnails and everything. That's why it's like people are like, use DaVinci, and I'm like, I need Photoshop too.
I know, and it's I don't have the time to put into learning new software,
I
so.
know, yeah, because at the end of the day, whatever has less friction,
Mhm.
video editing has enough friction. If I add just one more dink, I'm not gonna do it.
True, never will happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do to make your pixel art? What do you use for that?
Yeah, I use A Sprite.
Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes when I'm doing the map design, I use Tiled.
Okay.
But since I'm doing procedural generation, I don't need to think about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
because level design, yeah, is hard.
It
It's
is.
easier when you have procedural generation, but in
Yeah.
a way, you can't overcomplicate things. Like it's so easy to like say to handcraft your levels through procedural, but I don't know. Some advice I'm getting is that don't overcomplicate it, and I think it's also important. So it's like now because when I was making my adventure game, the level design was driving me crazy.
Mhm.
And now that I'm doing this, I kind of miss that, like having all that control. And so it's a really interesting position that I'm in now. I could see both sides and to appreciate the strengths of the each side, I guess.
No, I totally hear you. I had to kind of change how I was generating my city because partly because, like you said, doing the actual level design takes maybe more time than procedural, and I was also overcomplicating it. So
Yes.
it was like a fixed kind of layout, but then the buildings, each building that spawned had a number of different things that would change. Like the first floor would be different, then the upper floors would be different.
Hmm.
So many materials were changing, shop
Oh my
signs, and that
god.
was connected to like what items were spawning
Oh my
inside.
god.
And the interiors were all different, like all of the interior was done differently, and there's different chances. So I think it was over complicating that part. I'm like, I could just make really well crafted buildings and
Yeah.
just make enough of them that they don't feel too repetitive, and I
Yeah,
can
it's
just
like
keep going with it as much as I need to.
yeah, you need to ask yourself like how big do I want the world to be? And
Right.
yeah. So how do you is that I don't know if that's too spoilery, but how big is your world?
So I'm going to like a more like the city layout is now more procedural,
Okay.
but each building in itself is less procedural. I'll just have
Oh, okay.
more variations of it. Like I could do like three variations of one building rather than trying to procedurally do every section of it. But now I'm facing different problems because, like with 3D stuff, occlusion culling is basically, in case anyone doesn't know, is like if I'm looking at a wall, occlusion culling will stop the game engine from like rendering everything behind that wall, which makes it
Mhm.
way more performant. But usually you bake that before you play the game. So if
Mhm.
I'm dynamically generating the city, then I have to find a way to like bake it in
Mhm.
play mode. And same with like combining mesh together. So it's like fewer game objects. That's another way to optimize, but that's another thing that I'm gonna have to do after like during gameplay runtime. So I'm going to see how big to make the city based on how performant I can get it to be
Yeah.
using some of these different techniques. So that's kind of still a bit up in the air. At the moment, it's 150 meters ish, depending on how it generates. But and it seems like a good size, and it seems to be running pretty decently before any of the optimization. So I'm feeling pretty good. I think I can go as big as I'll want to. It's just going to be a matter of how annoying it is to get from one side of the city to the other.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta go all the way over there.
There's no like flying scooters in
I
the world.
mean, not yet. Good idea. How about
Yeah, I
your
got.
world? How are you doing your sizing of it?
Oh, sorry. Did you? I couldn't hear that question.
Yeah, how big are you making your world, and how are you approaching the size of it?
I think it's like 1,500 pixels by, or maybe less than that. Yeah, like 1,500 by. Oh yeah, it was in my video. 785,000 tiles.
700.
In 85,000
1,000?
tiles. Yeah, tiles.
And your character is one tile?
Yeah, my character's like a tile and a half. But we'll see. Like, I don't know, because I could play the game and say this world is too small, make it smaller, or this world is too big. But as of now,
That is,
yeah,
it's hard to like process what that would be like walking around, but it seems really big. That sounds pretty
yeah, no,
cool.
it is. It's pretty big. But I guess like if you're at the bottom and you're walking to the top, maybe it'll take like 3 minutes. I think I've never timed it, but I think. Or
And
2 minutes?
and it wraps around because it's a world, right? So you just
Yeah.
yeah.
I need
That's
to time that actually. It's 2 minutes wide and 2 minutes tall.
2 minutes to walk one way and 2 minutes to walk up and
Yeah,
down.
I don't know. I need to time it, but that's my guess.
Hmm.
But there's like
Yeah.
rivers and stuff, so it's not going to be that easy, I guess. We'll see. That's why it's like I don't want to worry too much about the size of things. I think it needs to be played and tested, and then you need to see if it's a good size or not.
Yeah, for sure. Interesting. There's so many fun challenges with game development.
Yeah, and it's cool how like the different challenges we face from 2D to 3D and
Yeah,
all of that jazz.
yeah, similar genre, but still so many different challenges.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, one thing that is much better with my Logcraft development is that I've been having play testers very early on, and I think that's like so important to release demos. And I've been like going to Steam and looking at early access games because they normally have like the updates that they've updated, and then they write a whole change log and everything. And I've been trying to do the same thing on my Patreon and to have like all the things I've added, all the bug fix, all the bugs I'm aware of, and like to keep that documentation and to get feedback from people. And I think that's like been really nice to have because it's crazy the bugs that people find. I'm just like, how? Because like when you play a game over and over every single day, like you do things in a way that you know it's not going to break. So it's
I
like,
know. I know. When I was testing for the demo recently, I was like, I didn't even. Of course, people are going to do that. How could I even like? You just walk in the exact same path. Like, there's so many things that you do that you don't even realize.
yeah, it's really crazy. And people, like, I have one game tester who is the best at breaking the game, but it's the best. You need someone like that who is good at breaking the games.
Mhm.
Like, because then, you know, when it's in development or when you've released it, you don't have crazy headache.
Yeah, for sure. So is it out free to play, or these are just testers who are kind of getting it behind the scenes?
Yeah, like for now, I just have it on Patreon. So for the first year, I have the testers try it
That's a
out.
good way to do it. That's cool.
Yeah,
Are
it's
you liking
definitely.
Patreon? Using Patreon?
Huh?
Do you find Patreon's like helpful? Is it a good kind of add-on to be going
Yeah,
alongside working?
I really like Patreon. It's been really good so far. And it's nice to have that, you know, that place where you can release like this type of content and people appreciate it. And I also release the source code, so it's really it's great. I like it.
That's actually very interesting. Do you get people giving you feedback on the source
Actually,
code?
no one has given me any feedback. I think they like opening the project and seeing the code, but I've never had like people saying, "Oh, there's a bug here," or "This is not good here." I figured people look at my code, they're like, "What the heck is this? What is this spaghetti code?"
I'm sure it's fine.
I've been going crazy over my game architecture lately because like when I first started, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this project clean. It's gonna be nice. And then like, okay, you start that way, but then after 3 months, when things start breaking, you just mess up your code. I don't know how. So like when I was doing the procedural generation, I was throwing things everywhere, messing up my beautiful connections. And then, like, after I finished, it took me like a month and a half to get through that. I was like, what the hell happened to my code? So I've been like researching, like design patterns for game and all of that. But
Hmm.
at the end of the day, I just like I looked at my scripts, and the scripts that could be like separated into two scripts, I did that, and I just made them more, pure for that thing that they were trying to do. And then that really helped a lot. I didn't need any design patterns, but I feel like I should learn the design patterns.
Yeah. Yeah. Architecture, especially when you start doing more complex games like survival games that has all these different systems working together, that's when, it really starts showing up how important it is to get clean code because you're going to
Yeah.
be jumping around and it's nice to know what everything's doing and having it work all nicely and independently and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, like they say, you can always make it work and then make it clean after.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just need to get better at making it clean after.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, yeah, it works. Good enough. No one else is looking at it.
Except all of Twitch.
That's true, except for a bunch of people on Twitch looking at it.
Oh my god, can we talk about backseaters? Because this is something I had to learn how to handle. When I was first streaming, I like welcome all the backseaters. You can come. You have a place here. But now I'm like, don't you talk about my code. It's
Yeah.
just so hard.
It can be really overwhelming. It can be very overwhelming.
Yeah, it's really hard on because the problem is there are people who are very helpful and they tell you like, "Oh, you forgot this." And I'm like, "Oh, damn, I forgot that." But then there's people who are like who don't know what they're talking about and then they try to help and then then those people ruin it for all the good people.
Yes, it's definitely a balancing act because, like, it's the way I look at it is it's better to get a bunch of feedback, even if some of it's not good. Because then I look at it as like a potential direction to go in, right? So if I'm like, oh, I don't know the best way to handle this, someone's like, oh, you should do this and this. I'm like, okay, like
Yeah,
let
that's
me look that
true.
up and see, like, this is that the way I want to go? And if it works and it checks out, great, I'll do that. And if not, it's like, okay, that doesn't really seem great. Let's see if there's other options. So
Yeah.
when people are offering that kind of feedback, it's helpful. And when people are offering unsolicited feedback, I usually just say like, I'm like, I appreciate
Yeah,
the
yeah.
help, but like, I just say when I'll let you guys know when I'm looking for feedback and suggestions. Otherwise, it gets too overwhelming. And I mean, I've been doing it for a while, and a lot of people in my stream are regulars, so most people
Yeah.
kind of have an understanding of when's a good time to chime in and when's a good time to let me figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's true because some people are like that's why like when you're fixing a bug, it's like sometimes you don't even know where it's coming from. So it is good to get like that tip like, "Oh, maybe." And it's like, "Whoa, I didn't think about that." So
Mhm. Yeah.
that's definitely true.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I've even had, like you said, it's funny. Some people really pay close attention, and I don't expect it. I've had people say like, line 73, you missed a semicolon. I'm like, what? How are you that observant?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And that's why it's like also I'm like, how many people are actually like really watching me code? How many people just have me in the background?
Yeah.
I was always confused when I first started out. I'm like, are people like watching me or am I in the background or so
Mhm.
yeah, some people really they know some of my code better than me probably.
Wow. Yeah. That's cool. It's cool to have like all these different types of people to hang out with and to have
Yeah.
conversations with while you work. It's nice.
Yeah, and some people like work in game studios like and it's just that's the best part about Twitch. You have so many talented people and it's also cool because you already know that you have common interest, game development, so
Mhm.
it really brings together a really cool crowd of people.
Yeah, it does.
It's nice.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of the peripheral hobbies and interests kind of overlap a little bit when you
Yeah,
already have an interest in game development.
that's true. Like the video games, of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, I also like that streaming brings out like some additional hobbies. Like I've always been planting stuff, but it's really cool to like have this stream in on that process. And yeah, I remember I was coming into your streams and you were really into bonsai trees.
Yes, I still have them. They're very tiny.
How many bonsai trees do you have?
Two. I got like this kit, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't like trimmed them yet. They just have been staying small because they're like a small container.
Did
But I
you
have
name
like
them
a
at
big,
least?
I have a gigantic jade plant, and I've been wanting to like trim it down because it's getting too big to even like it's taking up like the whole room. Like it's I don't
Oh
know what
my
to do with
god.
this thing. So I want to trim it down, but it's so like impressive because it's so big. I don't want to start chopping it up and killing it. I would feel so bad. So I was hoping to practice, but it's the
What's the
spring
appeal
now.
to you? Like, what do you like about bonsai trees?
Okay, first of all, most of my hobbies are like on the computer, and it's nice
Yeah.
to do something that's not on the computer.
Hmm.
Um, the second thing is when I moved into my current home, um, my mom just like was like, "Can I keep some plants with you for a bit?" Because she was moving as well. She's like, "Do you mind if I keep some plants with you?" Sure, I'll look after your plants. And then like now I've got all these plants, and I'm like getting really like wanting to make sure I don't kill them. And they're just growing bigger and bigger. And so like the bonsai element is kind of cool because you can have this beautiful tree and it can be
Hmm.
there for like so long. I don't know. There's something interesting about that. Like, imagine having a tree and you're like, ah, yes, this has been in this has been in the family for like 7 generations. This tree, and
How
it's just like a
do
little
they
tree.
get that old?
Yeah, I mean, trees can live pretty much forever. There's like,
Like so like the bonsai tree can get like 200 years old?
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's like
Oh
bonsai
Jesus.
competitions, and these things have been around for hundreds of years,
Oh my
and they're
god.
just like incredible looking, and they're like, you know, priceless. These things, they're just these works of art, basically. It's pretty cool.
That's
I'm actually more
awesome.
interested in like observing bonsai culture than actually getting too involved. But it might be nice to just trim this tree in a way where I don't kill it. Also,
But that's awesome because it's like you had it as a baby when you started your game, and it can be like a representation how your game has grown. And like, if you think about that period in time you got it, and it's like once, like in 20 years, you'll think like, oh, that's when I started building strain, and look, it's an old man now.
yeah, that's so true. Little
Yeah,
time capsule kind of.
it's interesting.
So, okay, I've been wanting to ask you about your hydroponics. Just to give you a background, I've done like I got like a baby's first hydroponics kit. Basically, my friend gave it to me for my birthday, and it's just like it was 3 lettuce containers. I just had to keep adding water, the lights on. It's all set up for me. And then I named them. They grew, and then I ate them. They were delicious. I gotta plant some basil next, but that's the extent of my knowledge. So I want to hear all about what you've been doing with
Yeah,
it.
so I started like five years ago. This was when IKEA used to sell them. But actually, I don't know what I was just really into hydroponics even before I like started. I like did a bunch of research on it. And then when I saw it at IKEA, I was like, whoa, I have to have it. So I planted it, and I was working at this English school, and I actually decided to incorporate the students with it. So
Mm,
the we bought the hydroponic kit for the school as well, and then I had like because when you have the nursery, there's like a bunch of little slots for it, like many. I think like you saw when I was on stream, it
yeah,
was probably like 40 slots. I'm not
right.
sure. So I there was about that many students at the school, so each student got like their own plant and they could watch it grow. And I thought it was just it made me like really maintain it more, like because I like shared it with other people. So
Did you kill any of the students? I'm sorry, little Jimmy.
yeah,
Your
that's
plant has
what
died.
I also think it was important for them because some of them died,
Yeah,
like there's bad seeds. I'm
right.
sorry. So yeah, it was just really cool process, and like of course eating it and learning, and then questions arise like, oh, because you use like these rocks, and then it's like, why do you need the rocks? Oh, it's because the roots need to hold on to something. And
Mhm.
why do you need these nutrients? Because the plant's not getting the nutrients from the soil. So I just thought it's really interesting. But yeah, like the plants do grow much faster. I've noticed when you do the hydroponics correctly.
Do you do like air pumps as well?
No,
Like
they're not air. It's like in a
oxygen?
tub with
Okay.
water, and then you add nutrients. Yeah. What I've noticed is that like I sometimes also need to add tinfoil around the rocks because the algae will grow on it.
Oh, okay,
So you need to
interesting.
block the light from entering it.
Right, I have heard you have to block the light, which is interesting because like you want a lot of light on the plant itself, but you don't want any
Mhm.
light on the watered area. Is the water moving or is it still water?
It's still
Still
water.
water.
Yeah. Because
Okay.
these plants they don't take that long to grow.
What are you growing?
Right now I'm growing cilantro, some flowers, basil, parsley, and yeah, I think that's it. I
Cool. What
love cilantro, so it's mostly cilantro.
cilantro's so good.
I love
It
it.
makes anything like that it fits in with, it makes it that much better, like so much better.
Yeah, I love pico de gallo. Do you know pico de gallo?
Yes, yes, so good.
Best. And like a
Yeah.
lot of like okay, I've noticed in Poland they eat so much parsley and they don't like not everyone here, but many people don't like the taste of cilantro. I've heard that there's a gene or something. Some
Yeah.
people think it tastes like soap. I don't know. But here they eat a lot of parsley.
I'm not a big parsley fan, but I am into cilantro.
Yeah, I'm like I could eat parsley, but yeah, I could just eat cilantro plain like that. I
I think
once
I'm gonna get
made
some fresh
cilantro
cilantro. Maybe we'll
pesto.
get a plant today.
Yes.
It's a nice
You
having
need to
fresh
soak the
herbs.
seeds for 24 hours if
Okay,
you're
I'll
planting
keep that in
cilantro.
mind. I think that you can get them nearby at like where they're like already growing and you just put them into a pot with dirt and they just keep going.
Yeah, yeah, soil or hydroponics, like it's nice to
Where,
have.
so what kind of nutrients do you need for these plants?
I had this old IKEA that I bought like 3 years ago. I don't know if that's why it's like I feel like I should have bought new nutrients because they're not growing as fast as they used to.
Mm.
But I've heard people use like they have their own mixture. They put like Epsom salt, and yeah,
That part's
I can
really
send you this YouTuber who's really good with hydroponics, and he's hilarious.
okay. I'll have to watch it.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, knowing which plants need which nutrients is kind of like really cool to know. And then, I mean, even if you're not doing hydroponics, it's kind of interesting on like how crop rotation works and how where those nutrients come from and how they get into the soil in the first place. I feel like it's something that we don't really think about, even though we eat plants every day, and we do.
Yeah.
Some people, not everybody, I guess. Most of us
Yeah.
we eat plants pretty often, and then we don't really know like how that works. It's such a
Yeah, yeah,
science,
yeah. But
science to it.
that's another thing I loved about Poland because they plant they're like here I rent a garden with a friend
Mhm.
and they're so good at planting and they know so much. Like I love it. And living in Miami because Miami is like you can't dig. It's like all coral. So if you like stick a
Hmm.
shovel in the dirt, it's clink. Like there's not dirt. It's rock.
Yeah.
And so like coming to Poland and sticking a shovel in the dirt and and digging, I'm like, whoa. And like the
Wow.
soil here is just so fertile. So I also when spring comes now, we need to prepare the garden and we plant like green beans, radishes, tomatoes. My tomatoes always die though. They just need so much water.
Hmm.
And some other things like sunflowers and zucchini, cucumbers. Yeah. But it's a lot of work. Like if you don't go to water it every day and stuff, like it's hard. So that's why it's nice to have friends that help and
Is
stuff.
it close that you can just kind of pop over and water it?
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty close. Not like I walk outside and it's there, but it's a little short walk.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
like
pretty cool.
there's this whole uh in Poland, I think it's like an Austrian. They're called działkas, and
Mhm.
so like there'll be like a block of flats, and then there'll be like a whole area with just these little gardens. They're kind of
Hmm.
like I don't know how big to say. It's like it has a little tool shed
Hmm.
and then like a bunch of land.
I saw
So
like way more of those in England actually when I was there. I don't see them here very often, if ever. But yeah, I have seen those before, and I'm
yeah, and
always
it's
like,
really
wow, this
nice
is
when
nice.
you live in an apartment and you don't have yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so
Hmm.
cool. So like, if you're sharing this plot of garden with a friend, like, how do you decide who gets what? Are you like, I call dibs on that cucumber? Or like, no, I
No,
want the
you
carrots. I want to make
normally
carrot cake.
that's the thing, like, you normally have such an abundance that you're giving it to your neighbors and,
Hmm.
it's like there's a lot.
Oh, okay,
It's
that's pretty
it's
cool.
normally about eating it all.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. That's why it's like I love it here in Europe. Like people like my neighbor the other day, he's like, "I made cheese. You want some cheese?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
You made cheese?
Exactly. It's so cool.
What kind of cheese was it?
He gave me like a whole wedge, like this big, and it was like the wax was around it, and I was like, I don't know how you did that, but that was
Was
cool. I want
You
to
don't know
learn.
what type of cheese it was? Was it hard
No,
cheese?
geez, I don't know. Just no, I don't know.
Come on, Jackie, we need to know the cheese type.
Like, is this Gouda? No,
Gouda, yeah.
it's
Might have been good. I think Poland has a lot of like smoked Gouda, don't they?
it just tasted. It tasted good,
That's
but yeah,
amazing.
huh?
That's amazing. I want to make cheese. I don't think you're even like legally allowed to make a lot of different cheeses in Canada. Like, they would be really strict like food restrictions.
Yeah, I really want to get into fermenting things. Like I love
Hmm.
fermented, like cucumbers and
Hmm.
radishes. Like you can, yeah, one day I'll get into that.
I mean, you're like all your hobbies are kind of going together nicely because you can grow the vegetables and
Yeah,
ferment them. They go
yeah.
hand in hand. It seems like the
I'm
next.
inspired by the people here. They even make their own wine and everything.
Wow.
But that's not as hard. You preserve the fruits and then you get the juice and then you just add spiritus or something like that. I don't
Okay,
know.
interesting. It'd also be fun to do hot sauce, grow peppers and make like
Ooh,
hot sauce. You could have different types
yes.
or do like hot pepper jelly you can have with some
Ooh,
brie. Mmm.
that sounds good. Okay, we're gonna make a cooking podcast next.
That's awesome. So
All right.
okay, you know what's kind of funny though is we're both making survival games. I feel like
Mhm.
this type of stuff kind of is inspiring, and the survival inspires like back and forth. Uh, growing food yourself. Even like I'm doing a city survival, so hydroponics is something that kind of came up.
Ooh,
Like, oh, you're
yeah.
stuck in the city. How are you going to grow food? You might not have a lot of
That's in
soil.
RimWorld too. Have you played RimWorld?
Yeah. Oh my god, I love RimWorld. Yeah.
Yeah, they also
Love
have like
hydroponics.
hydroponics, and it's good
Yeah.
because it's like snows sometimes. Yeah.
And just growing food for a survival game makes a lot of sense. Going out into nature, your nature walks makes a lot of sense if you're making a game about nature.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Like I keep my eyes wide open when I'm in the forest, like to get any inspiration.
mm,
It's really cool, and yeah, I really would love to incorporate like how I see the forest because I love like the like different mushrooms that you find. I'm I wouldn't recommend people to pick mushrooms, but I've like here they do it, so like they've taught me the variety and um but yeah, it's like it's so nice. Like also like sometimes when I see like really nice moss, like it just and I get so inspired like to make even like stuff for like graphical design and like and then like there's some sticks like you find on the floor and like you see the little worms that have made trails and they make like beautiful trails in some of these sticks. So yeah, it's just like I love like I don't even have to have a purpose of like hiking a mountain or stuff. I could just go in the forest and it's just so beautiful. And I would love like for more people like to go to nature because it's like just the greenness, it calms you down and it's great. I need to go more basically.
you've inspired me. Now I want to go on a little nature walk.
Yes, look at the bugs, look at the mushrooms, look it's just
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, you're right. It is cool seeing different mushrooms and moss. It's cool you know which mushrooms to pick. That's an interesting.
No, just like there's just two species, but it's you really got to be careful because I have friends who said my uncle has died eating a mushroom. It's like, dang, okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd be so terrified to just eat a random
yeah. It
mushroom.
is. That's why it's like I wouldn't recommend it to somebody unless like they really. But here, like especially like because you hear people who have lived through communism where there was not a lot of food and stuff like they would do that to just to have more things to eat and stuff. So yeah, you see
Absolutely.
how that has affected the recipes and what they eat and everything.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Different regions have, like you said, recipes, and it all comes down to the history of what was available and why they had
Yeah,
to go to these different sources for food. It's super interesting.
yeah.
Cool. Well, I think now's a good time to wrap it up and say goodbye. Thank you so much for
Alrighty.
joining. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Yes, it has been really great. I really enjoyed this.
Where can people find you if they want to check out your stuff?
Yeah, so I think everything is basically Jackie Codes. I have
Mhm.
YouTube, Twitch, Twitter. It should all be Jackie underscores code or just Jackie space codes or Jackie codes.
Perfect.
But those are the main three, I guess, that you can find me.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Yeah.
thank you again. Take care.
Alrighty, thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Bye.